sooner or later, asks us all the same question. It arrives in the stillness that follows a devastating failure, in the loneliness of a broken heart, or in the darkness of a loss that leaves us breathless. The question, laden with pain and confusion, is always the same. Why me? It is an honest question, a cry that comes from the depths of our being. But it is a question that, without us realizing it, chains us to the role of a victim, leaving our power in the hands of a seemingly cruel and arbitrary fate. Inner alchemy, the journey you are about to embark on, begins when we dare to ask a different question. An infinitely braver and more powerful question: for what purpose? That simple phrase is the key that transforms suffering from a prison into a laboratory. It is the portal that takes us out of victimhood and returns us to our power. It is the first and greatest secret of the alchemist. Inner alchemy is the sacred art of taking the darkest and heaviest materials of your life, your pain, your fears, your failures, your deepest wounds, and transmuting them into the gold of wisdom, resilience, and authentic power. This audiobook is based on a radical truth. Your suffering is not a punishment. It is not an error in the system. It is the raw material. It is the indispensable lead that the universe gives you so that you can forge the gold of your own soul. Together, we will ignite the fire of consciousness to burn away the old identities that no longer serve you. We will learn to dissolve the ego's defenses in the water of vulnerability. We will separate the lesson, the gold, from the emotional drama, the dross. We will unite your light with your shadow so that you can, at last, be whole. And we will distill the purest wisdom from your most bitter experiences. This is not a journey to eliminate pain, because pain is a teacher. It is a journey to give it purpose. It is not about learning to avoid failure, but about learning to extract its hidden gold from it. The secret laboratory of your soul has always been open. The fire is ready. The raw material is your own precious life. Chapter 1. The raw material, the gold hidden in your darkness. The journey of the soul's transformation does not begin with the search for a magical and exotic ingredient. It does not start on a distant mountaintop or within the pages of an ancient secret text. It begins with the most common, most despised, and most abundant material that exists. It begins with lead. In traditional alchemy, lead was the base metal, dark, heavy, and seemingly worthless. In inner alchemy, lead is a metaphor for everything we consider heavy and worthless within ourselves. It is the sum of our wounds, our failures, our shames, our deepest fears, and our shadow. It is everything we have spent our lives running from, what we have tried to suppress, deny, or forget. Our culture has taught us to be false alchemists. It has sold us the idea of transformation through avoidance. It tells us, think positive. Don't dwell on the negative. Vibrate high. It encourages us to ignore our lead and pretend we are already gold. This is the path of the spiritual bypass, the use of spiritual concepts to avoid difficult emotional work. It's like painting a heavy lead ball with gold spray paint and expecting it to float. Sooner or later, the thin layer of paint wears off, and the weight of the lead sinks us again. The first and bravest lesson of the true alchemist is this: you cannot transmute a lead that you refuse to touch. The gold is not found by fleeing from the darkness. The gold is created from the darkness. Your pain, your failure, and your shadow are not the obstacles in your path. They are the path. They are the sacred raw material, the prima materia, without which the great work cannot even begin. To start our work, we must first understand the anatomy of our personal lead. The first of its components is the lead of failure. These are your mistakes, your bad decisions, the business that went bankrupt, the relationship that broke. The alchemist, in contrast, sees failure as invaluable data. Every failure is an experiment in the soul's laboratory that has revealed a truth. It doesn't tell you you are a failure. It tells you this strategy does not work. A failure, when looked at with courage, contains a nugget of wisdom of incalculable value. The second component is the lead of pain. It is the weight of grief, of betrayal, of a broken heart. Our instinctive reaction is to numb this pain. We drown it in distractions, in work, in addictions. The alchemist knows that unprocessed pain does not disappear. It becomes a poison that festers in the soul, manifesting as bitterness, cynicism, or illness. Pain is a stern teacher, a fire that, if you allow yourself to feel it consciously, has an immense purifying power. It is the heat that begins to soften the hard, rigid metal of your defenses, making it malleable and ready to be transformed. To flee from pain is to reject the very fire of transmutation. And the third component, the most subtle and often the heaviest, is the lead of the shadow. It is the sum of all the parts of yourself that you have judged as bad or unacceptable and have banished to the basement of your psyche. Your anger, your envy, your laziness, your selfishness. The false alchemist tries to eliminate these impurities. The true alchemist knows they are inseparable from the metal, and more importantly, they know that in this shadow often lies our greatest repressed power, our golden shadow. Your repressed anger may contain the seed of your assertiveness. Your envy may be a compass pointing to what your soul truly craves, pain and shadow. This is your prima materia. The first step of the great work is the most difficult of all. It is not a technique, it is an act of courage. It is the decision to stop running, to turn around and face everything you have been avoiding. It is the act of gathering your own lead. Practice, the courage to descend into the basement. These exercises are not meant to fix anything yet. Their sole purpose is to help you gather your raw material with acceptance and without judgment. Exercise 1. The inventory of your lead. This is an exercise in radical honesty. Take your journal and create 3 sections. Section 1. My golden failures. Write down 1 or 2 of your greatest failures. Now answer this question for each. If this failure were a teacher in disguise, what is the golden lesson, the invaluable wisdom, that it offered me? Section 2. The map of my wounds. Write down 1 or 2 emotional wounds you are still carrying. Ask yourself, what part of me is asking to be seen through this pain? Section 3. The mirrors of my shadow. List 2 or 3 qualities in others that irritate you disproportionately. Now ask yourself, in what way is this quality that I judge so harshly a reflection of a part of me that I have denied or repressed? The goal is to make you feel whole, acknowledging all parts of your story. Exercise 2. The Radical Acceptance Meditation. This is a practice to change your relationship with your lead. Sit in silence for a few minutes. Bring to mind one of the difficult elements you identified. Normally, your instinct would be to fight it. This time, do the opposite. Simply allow it to be there. Visualize it in front of you, or feel the sensation in your body. And now, mentally, bow your head to it in a gesture of respect, as if bowing to a stern teacher. And say inwardly, I see you. I acknowledge that you are part of my experience. For this moment, you have permission to exist, without my resistance and without my judgment. You just have to stop being at war with what is. This simple act of ceasing the internal fire releases an immense amount of energy. It is the first step toward peace. The great work begins not with a search for the light, but with the courage to sit in one's own darkness. Your greatest power lies dormant, like a hidden treasure, in your deepest wounds. You have gathered your raw material. You have accepted your lead. You have recognized that the place of the poison is also the place of the medicine. Chapter 2. The Purifying Fire. The Blessing of Crisis. In the alchemy of life, the fire has a name we all know and fear. The fire is crisis. It's the moment when life suddenly turns up the temperature. It is the loss of the job that gave you security. It is the medical diagnosis that shatters your sense of invulnerability. It is the end of a relationship you thought was eternal. It is the failure of a project in which you had invested your soul. It is the dark night of the soul, that period of profound disorientation in which all your old answers turn to ash and you are left alone with the questions. Our instinct, conditioned by a culture that worships comfort and fears pain, is to flee from the fire. But the alchemist knows that the fire is not the enemy. The fire is the agent of purification. The ancient alchemical term for this process is calcinatio. It is the process of heating a solid substance in the crucible to a very high temperature, to burn away all its impurities, everything volatile, everything non-essential, until only a fine powder of pure white ash remains. In our psyche, crisis initiates an emotional and spiritual calcinatio. The fire of adversity relentlessly burns away everything that is not authentic in us. It incinerates the masks we have worn to please others. It chars the false securities upon which we had built our lives. It reduces to ashes our pride, our meticulously crafted plans, and above all, the arrogance of our ego that believed it had everything under control. Living through a calcinatio is terribly painful. It feels like destruction. It feels as if you are losing everything you are, everything you have. It is the moment when you look at the landscape of your life and see only the smoking rubble of what was. And yet, at the heart of this apparent disaster lies the greatest of blessings. The purpose of calcinatio is not destruction, but purification. The fire does not destroy the metal. It refines it. The question the alchemist asks in the midst of the flames is not, "What am I losing?" but "What is being burned?" And the answer is always the same. The only thing the fire can burn is what is not real. When your career collapses, the fire burns the lead of your identification with a title. What is left in the ash? Your true essence remains, your talents, your resilience, your character. When an important relationship ends, the fire burns your attachments and expectations. And what is left? The wisdom you gained, the lessons you learned about yourself, and the capacity to love that resides in your own heart. When a failure humbles your pride, the fire burns the arrogance of your ego. And what is left? Humility remains, an infinitely stronger and wiser quality. The crisis takes nothing from you that was truly yours. It only burns the illusions. It only purifies the lead, reducing it to its simplest and truest essence. That ash left at the bottom of the crucible after the firestorm, that is the raw material for your rebirth. Practice: navigating the alchemical fire. These exercises are not intended to avoid the fire, but to teach you to remain in it consciously. Exercise 1. The yes to the fire. If you are in the midst of a crisis, this practice is your anchor. Your instinct will be to fight and resist. The first and bravest action of the alchemist is surrender to the process. Find a quiet moment. Feel the heat of the crisis in your body. Instead of fighting it, say mentally, "I am in the fire. It hurts. But I say yes to this process. I surrender to my own purification." Exercise 2. The Diary of Ashes. This exercise is for extracting the gold from a past crisis. Think about the most difficult time in your life. Step A. The lead that was burned. Make a list of everything you felt you lost in that crisis. A job, a relationship, security, your pride. Step B. The essential ash. In a new column, list what remained after the fire. What strength did you discover? What invaluable life lesson did you learn? Exercise 3. Identifying the ego's fuel. This is a mindfulness practice for daily frustrations. The next time you feel burned by a situation, a criticism, a setback, pause. Instead of reacting, ask yourself internally, what part of my ego is being threatened or burned by this situation right now? Is it my need to be right, my need for control, my pride, my public image? By identifying the specific lead of the ego that the fire is consuming, the situation changes completely. You stop seeing it as a personal attack and see it as a valuable opportunity for purification. You realize that the universe is doing you a favor. It is helping you burn one of the illusions that cause you suffering. Crisis is not a punishment. It is a ceremony. It is the rite of passage that separates the one who complains from the one who creates. It is the alchemical fire that, although terribly painful, is the only thing that has the power to separate our gold from our lead, our essence from our ego, our truth from our illusions. Chapter 3. The Dissolution in Water, the Power of Surrender. This is a place of immense potentiality, but the ash, no matter how purified, is a fragile, dry, and sterile substance. For life to be reborn from it, it must be dissolved. It must surrender to the power of the element that is opposite and complementary to fire: water. If the fire of crisis was an external event, the water of dissolution is a profoundly internal process that you must choose. The alchemical term for this phase is solutio. It is the process of submerging the ash in water to dissolve it, to break its rigid structure and create a primordial solution from which something new can be born. Psychologically, solutio is the phase of conscious grieving. After the crisis has ended, our instinctive reaction is to be strong and move on, ignoring the devastated emotional landscape within. The alchemist knows this is a fatal mistake. They know that before reconstruction, there must come dissolution. They know they must have the courage to voluntarily immerse themselves in the waters of their own pain. They must allow themselves to fully feel the sadness of loss, the anger of injustice, the fear of uncertainty. Tears are not a sign of weakness. They are the alchemical solvent. They are literally the water of solutio. Each tear is a release of stagnant emotional energy, an act that softens the hardened ash of our ego and dissolves it in the waters of our shared humanity. To refuse to cry is to choose to remain a fragile statue of ash, instead of becoming a fluid ocean. This process forces us to redefine our idea of strength. We have been conditioned to believe in the false strength of the rock. The rock is hard and resists, but because it is rigid, under enough pressure it shatters. The alchemy invites us to discover the true strength of the ocean. The ocean is soft, fluid, and adaptable. It resists nothing. A storm may stir its surface, but its depths remain in absolute calm. Its strength lies not in resistance, but in its capacity to feel everything without being destroyed by it, to contain all emotions within its vast and compassionate being. This is the strength of vulnerability. It is not the absence of wounds, but the ability to remain open despite them. The ego fears dissolution more than anything. For it, to dissolve in the water of emotion is to die. And in a sense, it is right. Solutio is the death of the rigid defensive identity we have built to protect ourselves. It is the act of letting go of control, of admitting we do not have all the answers, of surrendering to a process that is larger than our understanding. Surrender is not defeat. Defeat is fighting a battle you cannot win. Surrender is the wise act of stopping the fight. It is recognizing that there is an intelligence in the universe, in your own healing process, that is much wiser than your small ego. It is letting go of the oars and for the first time trusting the current of the river. Practice, the art of dissolving with grace. These exercises are designed to help you navigate the waters of solutio, creating a safe space for dissolution to occur naturally. Exercise 1. The safe container. Vulnerability requires safety. The first step is to create a sacred and safe container for your emotions. This can be a time, a space, a practice, like journaling, or a relationship, like a therapist or a trusted friend. Exercise 2. The Inner Rain Meditation. This is a somatic meditation to dissolve stagnant emotional energy. Sit in silence. Identify a difficult emotion and where it lives in your body, like a tightness in your chest. Imagine it as a clump of dry, hardened earth. Now imagine a gentle, warm, compassionate rain falling inside you, directed at that clump. Your only task is to allow the rain to touch it, soften it, and moisten it. Feel how what was hard begins to dissolve, and how the trapped energy begins to flow again. You don't have to do anything but allow the rain of your own compassion to do its work. Exercise 3. Liberating writing. This practice is the opposite of intellectual analysis. Take your journal and set a timer for 15 minutes. Bring to mind the feeling you are processing, and then write without stopping. The only rule is that your pen cannot stop moving. Don't worry about grammar or logic. This is an emotional dump to release the raw energy onto the paper. Surrender is not defeat. Vulnerability is not weakness. They are the deepest acts of power of the alchemist. They are the baptism in the healing waters of your own soul, a baptism that dissolves the old self of ash and prepares you so that a new, more integrated, more fluid, and more compassionate one can be born. Chapter 4. Conscious Separation. Extracting the gold from the mud. This state of dissolution, while a necessary step of healing, cannot be permanent. To remain in it would be to drown in a directionless ocean of emotion. The alchemist knows that after having dissolved into the whole, the delicate work of redifferentiating must begin, but from a place of much greater awareness. It is time to light the lamp of clarity in the midst of the murky waters. We arrive at the phase of separatio, the art of conscious separation. In laboratory alchemy, separatio was the process of filtering, distilling, and sifting a solution to separate its components, isolating the pure elements from the impure. In inner alchemy, this is the crucial process of discernment. It is the moment when we activate our observer consciousness and look at the confusing mixture of our experience. When we live through a painful experience, a failure, a betrayal, a loss, it does not present itself to us in an orderly fashion. It appears as a thick mud, an inseparable mixture of facts, emotions, interpretations, judgments, and self-pity. Most of us remain trapped in that mud, reliving the experience over and over in its toxic entirety, without realizing that we are stirring the earth and the gold together. The first act of mastery for the alchemist is to understand that every painful experience is actually composed of two very different elements, the dross and the gold. The dross is the emotional drama. It is the story our ego weaves around the pain. It is a powerful and often addictive narrative. The dross has several voices. The voice of the victim, poor me. The voice of the judge, it was your fault. The voice of fear, this will happen again. But within that same mud, always without exception, hides the gold. The gold is the soul's lesson. It is the pure, impersonal, and liberating wisdom that the experience came to teach us. It is not a story. It is a truth. The gold appears in several forms. There is the gold of wisdom. I learned to set clearer boundaries. There is the gold of strength. I survived that. I can survive anything. There is the gold of compassion. Now I understand their pain. And sometimes, the most precious of all, the gold of purpose, when the wound becomes your greatest gift to serve others. Now I can help others navigate this. The false alchemist spends their entire life stirring the mud, obsessed with the story of the dross. The true alchemist learns to separate the gold from the mud. To perform this separation, we need the tools of consciousness. The first tool is the observer's question. When you feel trapped in the emotional whirlpool of a painful memory, you can activate your observer consciousness. It's as if a part of you steps back and becomes a curious scientist. From this detached place, you ask yourself key questions. What is the story I am telling myself? What emotion am I feeling in my body? If I eliminated the script of victim and perpetrator, what is the neutral, factual truth that remains? What is the lesson about myself that this experience is offering me? What gold can I extract from this mud? The second tool is the blade of responsibility. We often confuse responsibility with blame. Blame is the weight of the dross. Responsibility is the power of the gold. It forces you to move from the question, who did this to me, to the question, what choice, belief, or blindness of mine contributed to this situation manifesting in my life? This question instantly gives you your power back. The third tool is the archetype filter. When we are trapped in the drama, we are unconsciously identified with a limiting archetype, like the martyr, the wounded child, or the judge. The archetype filter allows you to step back and name the role you are playing. By saying, right now I'm trapped in my martyr archetype, you disidentify from the pattern and become the director of the play. Practice, your laboratory of conscious separation. Exercise. 1. The autopsy of a wound. Choose a painful experience you have emotionally dissolved. Draw 2 columns in your journal. The dross, my story of pain, and the gold, my soul's lesson. In the dross column, write the story with all the drama, blame, and resentment. Describe the voices of the victim, the judge, and the fear. In the gold column, pause, breathe, and begin to distill. Using the observer's questions, extract the pure wisdom. Wisdom. What did you learn about your boundaries or the nature of life? Strength. What inner muscle, resilience, courage, was strengthened? Compassion. Did this wound help you understand the pain of others? Purpose. Can this experience become a gift to others? Exercise 2. Real-time reframing. This is your daily mindfulness practice. The next time you feel trapped in the mud of a negative emotion, pause. Before reacting, apply the pause of 3 breaths. In that pause, activate your inner observer. Step 1. Name. Name the emotion. Okay, this is anger. Step 2. Separate. Separate it from the story. I am feeling anger, and the story my mind is creating is. Step 3. Seek the gold. Ask the alchemical question. What is the lesson here? What is this mirror showing me? This practice transforms life's small irritants into micro-opportunities for growth. Pain in life is inevitable. But suffering, which is pain plus the story we tell ourselves about it, is largely optional. Chapter 5. The Union of Opposites, the Inner Marriage. You now possess the pure elements. In one hand, you hold the light of your virtues, of your potential, of the wisdom extracted from pain. In the other, you hold the recognized darkness of your shadow, of your imperfections, of your wounds. The ordinary mind, the dualistic mind of the Matrix, would tell you that you must now choose, cling to the light, and banish the darkness forever. But the alchemist knows that this is the final error, the last temptation of separation. True mastery does not lie in the purification of one part at the expense of the other. It lies in integration. The next and most mysterious step of the great work is not choice, it is union. We arrive at the phase of conjunctio, the alchemical term for the sacred marriage. It is the process of taking the opposite elements we have separated and uniting them again, not in their old conflicting form, but in a new synthesis, a totality that is infinitely greater than the sum of its parts. Psychologically, conjunctio is the act of stopping the war with yourself. It is the end of the inner civil war. It is the understanding that the goal of life is not to be good, but to be whole. The first and most important marriage is that of the light and the shadow. It is no longer enough to recognize your shadow. Now, you must invite it out of the basement and to the table of your consciousness. Integrating the shadow does not mean acting out your darkest impulses destructively. It means finding the gold hidden in the lead of each shadow trait and giving it a conscious and healthy expression. Your repressed anger, once brought to light, is transmuted into the gold of assertiveness. Your fear, when you listen to it, is transmuted into the gold of prudence. Your envy, when you examine it, is transmuted into the gold of aspiration. By integrating your shadow, you do not become darker. You become more solid, more real, more dangerously whole. You stop being a predictable caricature and become a 3-dimensional human being. The second marriage is that of the masculine and the feminine. Within each of us reside 2 great archetypal principles. The masculine energy, Logos, the sun, is the energy of action, structure, and doing. The feminine energy, Eros, the moon, is the energy of receptivity, intuition, and being. Our society has conditioned us to overvalue masculine energy and to repress the feminine. Conjunctio is the sacred marriage of these 2 energies within you. It is learning to be both a warrior and a mystic. It is having the ability to execute a business plan with relentless discipline, masculine, and at the same time, the ability to sit in silence and listen to the wisdom of your intuition, feminine. The integrated person can move fluidly between these 2 polarities as the situation requires. The third marriage is that of suffering and purpose. This is the alchemical act that gives meaning to your entire story. It is the moment when you take your deepest wound, your heaviest lead, and consciously decide to turn it into your greatest gift to the world. The wound ceases to be your shame and becomes your medicine. Your most painful failure becomes the source of the wisdom you can now teach. This is the marriage between your personal story and your transpersonal purpose. It is the moment when your pain ceases to be just yours and becomes a beacon for others. You stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start declaring, "Because this happened to me, I can now." When these 3 marriages take place, the supreme symbol of the great work is born, the philosophical androgyne. It is depicted as a figure with 2 heads, 1 male and 1 female. This is not a symbol of gender, but of psychic totality. It is the image of the person who has healed their internal division. They have reconciled their opposites. And from this place of integration, immense power and creativity emanate. Practice. Celebrating the inner wedding exercise. 1. The Shadow Integration Dialogue. This exercise helps you find the gold in your lead. Choose a shadow trait you struggle with: anger, laziness, envy. In your journal, interview it. Ask it questions like, "Dear anger, what are you trying to protect in me?" Or, "Dear envy, what deep unrecognized desire are you pointing out to me?" Exercise 2. The Dance of Opposites. This is a practice to balance your masculine and feminine energies. First, identify which polarity you tend to repress. Your practice for the next week is to deliberately feed the opposite energy. If you have an excess of masculine, active, logical, schedule receptive feminine activities like a directionless walk or a relaxing bath. If you have an excess of feminine, passive, emotional, schedule deliberate acts of masculine structure. Organize a part of your house, create a budget, or make a small decision you have been postponing and act on it. This helps build the neural pathways of your less developed side. Exercise 3. The Ritual of Union. This is a brief visualization meditation. Sit in silence. Visualize on your left a figure representing your light side, and on your right, a figure representing your dark side. Imagine them turning to face each other and acknowledging one another. Then, visualize the light figure extending a hand in acceptance. Imagine both figures taking a step toward the center, embracing, and merging into a single brilliant and complete figure of light. A light that is richer and more real, because it also contains the darkness. Feel this new sense of integrity and peace in your body. Totality is not found by choosing the light and rejecting the darkness. It is found in the courage to embrace both. Chapter 6. The Interior Fermentation, the Darkness Before the Dawn. Welcome to the fermentation phase. In alchemy, after the union, conjunctio, the new substance is often sealed in a dark vessel and left to putrefy or ferment. From the outside it looks like death, but the alchemist knows this death is an illusion. It is in this darkness that matter decomposes to release its purest and most potent spirit, the process that transforms simple grape juice into the intoxicating spirit of wine. Fermentation is the dark night of the soul. It's the period that follows a great inner transformation. You've slain your old ego, dismantled old beliefs, and united your opposites. Now you find yourself in the in-between space. The old identity is dead, but the new one isn't fully born yet. It's one of the most perplexing and challenging states on the spiritual journey, characterized by several sensations. The first is a profound confusion and disorientation. Your old map of the world is useless, but the new one isn't fully drawn. Goals that once motivated you, perhaps material success or recognition, suddenly feel empty and meaningless. You have no clear new north. You feel adrift in a sea of not knowing. The second is a sense of emptiness or even depression. The drama of your old ego with its struggles, complaints, and ambitions is gone. The silence that remains can feel at first like an absence. The battle is over, and in the silence of the battlefield, you can feel strangely alone and purposeless. The seeker within you, the character that has defined you for so long, has died, and you are mourning it, even though its death is your liberation. The third is an extreme sensitivity. In earlier phases, you dissolved your old defenses and armor. Your psychic skin is new and tender. As a result, you feel everything with much greater intensity. The beauty of the world can bring you to tears, but the suffering and negativity around you can also affect you deeply. You feel like a being without a shell, vulnerable to all the energetic currents around you. In the midst of this darkness and confusion, the temptation to turn back is enormous. This is the moment your ego, in its final throes, launches its most cunning counterattack. It whispers in your ear, "See? All this inner work was a mistake. You were better off before. At least then you knew who you were. At least you had goals. Go back to your old habits. Rebuild your walls. Go back to the safety of the prison. This freedom is too terrifying, too empty." Many who embark on a path of deep transformation reach this phase and get scared. They interpret the dark night as a sign of failure and rush to rebuild their old identity. aborting the process of rebirth just before it's complete. The wisdom of the alchemist lies in their ability to trust the darkness. They know that fermentation is not a mistake, it is a gestation. They know that for a butterfly to be born, the caterpillar must first completely dissolve into the chaotic soup of the chrysalis. The dark night of the soul is not a tomb, it is a womb. Practice. Holding space for gestation. The practices for this phase are not about doing, but about being. It's not about getting out of the darkness, but about learning to be in it with trust and patience. Exercise 1. The anchor of trust. When you're in the darkness of fermentation, you don't need a map, you need an anchor. Your anchor is your connection to the present moment, to your body, to your breath. When you feel overwhelmed by confusion or emptiness, stop. Close your eyes, bring all your attention to the feeling of your feet on the ground. Feel the solidity of the earth beneath you. Bring your attention to your breath. Feel the air entering and leaving. Don't try to change anything. Simply rest in the simple, constant rhythm of life. Now, formulate your mantra for this phase. It's not an affirmation to get something. It's a declaration of trust in the process. It can be. I don't need to understand everything now. I trust the process of my own transformation. I am in gestation. Repeating this phrase reminds you that your current state is not a mistake, but a necessary and sacred stage. It gives you permission to be exactly where you are. Exercise 2. The Dream Journal, Advanced Level. During the fermentation phase, your unconscious is incredibly active. It's as if your soul is working overtime in the night workshop. Your dreams can become more vivid, stranger, and more loaded with symbolism of death and rebirth. Keep your dream journal with special diligence during this period. Write down everything you remember, no matter how fragmented. Your job isn't to interpret each dream logically. Your job is to honor the images. Draw the symbols that impact you most. Meditate on them. Ask them what message they hold for you. By paying attention to your dreams, you're keeping an open line of communication with the underground process that's occurring. You're witnessing the mystery of your own transformation. Exercise 3. The Search for Subtle Nourishment. A being in gestation needs the right kind of nourishment. Your psyche, in this vulnerable state, does too. This is a phase to drastically reduce your consumption of loud, chaotic, low-vibration mental food. This means less alarmist news, less social media, less violent or cynical entertainment. Your system doesn't have the defenses to process it right now. Consciously seek food that nourishes your gestating soul. Music. Listen to music that calms and uplifts you, not one that agitates you. Nature. Spend as much time as you can in nature, the great regulator of the nervous system. Reading. Read poetry, sacred texts, philosophy, anything that connects you to beauty and truth. Company. Seek the company of wise, compassionate, and calm friends, people who can hold space for you without feeling the need to fix you. It's about creating an external environment that reflects and supports the sacred stillness needed within you. The dark night of the soul is not a punishment, it is an initiation. Fermentation isn't decomposition in the sense of final death. It's the prelude to a new life, to a higher spirit. It is the sacred time of stillness, of waiting, and of darkness where the alchemist's deepest magic takes place. Trusting this phase is, perhaps, the greatest act of faith in the entire journey. It is the trust of the seed lying under the frozen winter ground, knowing that even if it sees no proof of it, spring is coming. Chapter 7. The Distillation of the Soul, Destillatio. What remains now is not an emptiness but an infinite potential. Imagine it as a vessel containing a rich, murky solution, a sacred mixture of our purest essence, liberated by fire, and the raw emotions we've honored with our tears. We have survived. We have felt. Now, the time has come to understand. We enter the most subtle, silent, and perhaps the most revealing phase of all. Destillatio, the distillation of the soul. In ancient laboratories, distillation was not a process of violence but of patience. The alchemist applied not a scorching fire, but a gentle, constant heat to the solution. Their goal was to invite the purest, lightest components, the essence, the spirit of the matter, to be released as vapor. This vapor would ascend, leaving behind the heavier sediments, the dross, the dense matter that no longer served. At the top of the alembic, the coolness of awareness would condense this vapor, drop by drop, into a crystalline elixir, a liquor of unparalleled potency and purity. This is the perfect metaphor for the process we now face. The laboratory is your consciousness. The gentle heat is your serene contemplative reflection. The murky solution is the memory of your painful experience, still loaded with history, drama, and the who did what to me narrative. Distillation is the art of rising above the personal story of your suffering. It is the moment you stop being the protagonist drowned in the plot of your own movie and become the wise observer who, from a raised seat, contemplates the screen and finally understands the message, the lesson, the hidden purpose of the entire story. This is the fundamental shift where the question that has driven us, "What was this for?" finds its answer. It's not an intellectual answer, not a simple justification, but a deep resonance in the soul. An understanding that feels like a silent, liberating aha. While in previous stages we felt the wound in all its intensity, now we extract its universal meaning. It's about taking the chaotic and personal story of "I was betrayed by my business partner" and distilling from it the eternal lesson about trust, discernment, and perhaps the importance of self-loyalty. It's about taking the memory of a humiliating failure and condensing it into a masterful teaching on resilience, the impermanence of the ego, or the true nature of success. We must be careful here. Destillatio is not a shortcut to avoid pain. It would be a mistake, a form of spiritual bypass, to try to distill a lesson from a wound that has not yet been cleansed by the fire of crisis and dissolved in the waters of emotion. Trying to do that is simply intellectualizing the pain, not transmuting it. True distillation is only possible when the preceding emotional work has been honestly done. When done correctly, this process miraculously transforms poison into medicine. The experience that once broke you becomes the source of your most solid wisdom. The event that made you feel like a helpless victim reveals itself as the catalyst that forged a strength within you that you didn't know you possessed. Suffering ceases to be a random, cruel event in an indifferent universe and is revealed as a necessary, meaningful, and deeply intelligent link in the golden chain of your evolution. It is time to light the gentle fire of your consciousness, to watch as the vapor of understanding rises, and to prepare to collect the precious drops of your own soul's elixir. Practice, the art of finding hidden purpose. These exercises are invitations to become the patient distiller of your own life. Approach them not with the urgency to find an answer, but with the curiosity of a sage exploring a sacred text, your own story. Exercise 1. The Soul's Vantage Point, Guided Visualization and Writing. Find at least 30 minutes of complete solitude. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and begin to connect with your breath. Now visualize yourself at the foot of an ancient stone tower. It is the tower of your higher consciousness. You begin to climb a spiral staircase. With each step you ascend, you feel yourself leaving behind the noise of your daily thoughts, worries, and to-do lists. You climb higher and higher above the clouds of confusion and drama. Finally, you reach the top. A circular platform, open to the infinite sky, with a transparent glass floor. This is your soul's vantage point. From here, you look down through the glass. You see the timeline of your life stretching out like a vast landscape. Choose one of the painful experiences you've been working on throughout this journey. Observe it as a scene unfolding far below you. You are no longer inside it. You don't feel the sharp pain, only a serene compassion for the person you were. You are the observer. Maintaining this elevated perspective, open your journal and, without judgment, answer these questions as honestly as possible. The hero's lesson. If this scene were a crucial chapter in the hero's journey that is my life, what fundamental quality was being forged in me through this trial? Not the obvious answer. Look deeper. Was it the courage to be alone? Compassion born of humiliation? Patience forged in unbearable waiting? Resilience discovered under a weight you thought would crush you? The shattered illusion. Every crisis is the death of an illusion. What deeply held but ultimately false belief was shattered by this experience? Perhaps it was the illusion that you could control everything, the belief that love had to be a certain way, or the idea that your worth depended on something external like your career or the approval of others. Name that illusion and honor its destruction, for it has set you free. The transpersonal purpose. Elevate your view even higher. If this experience was not just yours but an archetype, a universal human story, what would its teaching be for the world? What truth about the human condition does it reveal? By doing this, you separate the "this happened to me" and connect it to collective wisdom. The distilled phrase. Review your answers. Now try to condense all that understanding into a single phrase. A short, clear, powerful phrase that captures the essence of the wisdom you've gained. This is your first drop of liquid gold. The distilled phrase. Review your answers. Now try to condense all that understanding into a single phrase. A short, clear, powerful phrase that captures the essence of the wisdom you've gained. This is your first drop of liquid gold. Exercise 2. The letter from your future self. A dialogue with wisdom. This exercise requires imagination and an open heart. Sit in silence again. Close your eyes. Imagine you travel in time 10 or 15 years into the future. You find yourself in a place that radiates peace. There, sitting across from you, is your future self. Don't analyze it, feel it. Observe the serenity in its gaze, the gentle lines of a wise smile on its face. This version of you has fully integrated all the lessons of its past, including the pain you are processing now. It radiates unconditional compassion and love for you. There is no judgment in its gaze, only deep understanding. Now, take your journal. You're going to write a letter, but it's not you who's writing. It's your future self. Allow its voice, its wisdom, and its love to flow through your hand. The letter begins, "My dear, your name. I am writing to you from your future to remind you of something you may have forgotten." Let it explain, with infinite tenderness, what the purpose of that difficulty was. Allow it to reveal the unexpected gifts that blossomed from that dark earth. Let it tell you how that experience, which felt like an ending, was actually a necessary preparation for the incredible life it now enjoys. Don't force the words. Listen. Trust what comes. Let the comfort and perspective of your own innate wisdom flood you. Keep writing until you feel the message is complete. Exercise 3. Naming your elixir. Look at the distilled phrase from the first exercise and the key messages from the letter from your future self. You'll see they point to a central truth. Your final task in this stage is to give this truth a memorable name. This is your personal elixir, your medicine. The goal is to move from a statement to an identity. For example, if the lesson was, "I must set boundaries to protect myself," the elixir could be, "The Sovereign Guardian." If the lesson was, "Life flows and I can't control it," the elixir could be, "The River Dancer." If the lesson was, "My worth is inherent and needs no proof," the elixir could be, "The Inner Jewel." You have patiently watched as the vapor of understanding rose from the heat of experience. You have collected, drop by drop, the elixir of wisdom. You hold in your hands a liquid gold of incalculable value. But this wisdom, however pure and potent, is still ethereal, almost like a dream. For it to complete its transformative power, to truly and lastingly change your life, it must return to the earth. It must be embodied. It must pass from the realm of spirit to the realm of matter. The time has come to solidify your being. Chapter 8. The Solidification of Being, Coagulatio. In traditional alchemy, coagulatio is the culminating process that transforms the purified substance from its liquid or ethereal state into a solid and stable form. It is the act of taking the dew of wisdom and, through patience and gentle constant heat, crystallizing it. It is the creation of the philosopher's stone, not in its legendary form, but in its truest form, as a substance that is both material and immutable. In Inner Alchemy, this is the bridge between knowing and being. It is the difference between knowledge that resides only in our mind and a truth that has sunk into our bones. Distilled wisdom is a revelation. Coagulated wisdom is an action. It's when the lesson stops being a concept you understand and becomes the way you live. It is integrity made flesh and blood. Think of it this way. The Destillatio phase is when the gardener finally understands why the drought killed all their plants. The soil was not right. Distilled wisdom is that understanding. Coagulatio is the gardener's act of changing the soil, preparing it, planting a new seed, and seeing the first flower grow. Knowledge has been manifested. Modern society, with its obsession with information and instant gratification, has trained us to be excellent distillers but terrible coagulators. We devour self-help books, listen to inspiring podcasts, and fill our journals with powerful phrases. But without coagulatio, without the action that solidifies knowledge, it's all just vapor that dissipates. It's a momentary flash without lasting light. It's like spray painting a heavy lead ball gold and believing it will float. Sooner or later, the weight of the lead drags you back into the old reality. The great power of coagulatio is that it pulls us out of our heads and anchors us in our bodies. It forces us to integrate wisdom somatically, to feel it in our muscles, to see it manifested in our actions. And in this process of manifestation, character is forged. Character is nothing more than embodied wisdom through the repetition of conscious choices that reflect an inner truth. Every time you make a decision that honors the lesson you have learned, you are adding a gram of gold to the solidity of your being. When the wisdom of resilience coagulates, you don't just think, "I am strong." You get up after a fall, feel the solidity in your feet and peace in your chest, without needing to mentally convince yourself of anything. When the lesson of self-compassion coagulates, you automatically stop attacking yourself with internal criticism, and your hand instinctively moves to tenderly touch your own heart. The knowledge has become new neurological wiring, a new reflex. This is the true birth of an unbreakable strength. It is not the false strength of the rock that resists until it shatters. It is the true strength of the rock that has formed slowly, layer by layer over millennia, from pressure and heat. It is the solidity that comes not from the ego's rigidity, but from the soul's coherence. When you live from this place, your sense of self doesn't waver with others' opinions or collapse with a failure. You have become your own anchor. Practice, embodying your wisdom. These exercises are sacred acts of coagulatio. They are the conscious action that transforms knowledge into a new way of being. Perform these exercises with the intention that each one is a hammer blow that solidifies your new identity. Exercise 1. The Alchemist's Vow, Commitment Ritual. Take the elixir of wisdom you named in the previous chapter, that phrase that summarizes your soul's lesson. Now you are going to seal your commitment to it in a personal ritual. Prepare. Find a quiet place. You can light a candle, hold a crystal, or an object that gives you a sense of solidity. This creates a sacred space for your intention. Write your vow. On a clean page in your journal, write at the top, "My vow of coagulation." Then write your wisdom phrase and, below it, transform it into a personal oath, an active commitment. Example: if your elixir was the inner jewel, your vow could be, "I, your name, commit to living my life from the unbreakable truth of my inherent worth. I will honor my boundaries, speak my truth, and will no longer seek validation from others that resides within me. My worth is not negotiable." Read it aloud. Read your vow out loud. Listen to the words resonate in the air, in the room, and in your body. Feel the seriousness and power of your commitment. It is a vow made to the most sacred part of yourself. Seal the vow. Close the journal. You can blow out the candle you lit or simply hold the object. This is the symbolic act of sealing the promise. You now have a clear declaration and a conscious commitment to the wisdom you have gained. Exercise 2. The coagulating action. Daily practice. Coagulatio happens through repetition. The mind is convinced by a thought, but the body is convinced by a habit. This exercise invites you to take knowledge and turn it into action. Identify an action. Choose a small, simple, and concrete action you can perform in the next 24 hours that is a direct manifestation of your vow. It doesn't have to be a grand gesture. Small acts have immense power. If your wisdom is about boundaries, the action could be to say no to an invitation that drains you, or simply not to respond to an email or message immediately if you don't want to. If your wisdom is about authenticity, the action could be to wear the clothes that truly make you happy instead of what you should wear, or to express an opinion in a conversation, even if it feels a little scary. If your wisdom is about patience, the action could be, the next time you feel impatient, to stop, take 3 deep breaths, and observe what is happening instead of reacting. Act with awareness. When you perform the action, do so with total awareness. Observe the sensations in your body, the possible nervousness before, the feeling of liberation or power afterward. Notice the difference between how you would have reacted before and how you do now. Each of these actions is a microcrystallization of your new identity. Exercise 3. The somatic anchor, mind-body integration. Wisdom must inhabit not just your mind, but your body. This exercise helps you connect the elixir of your wisdom with a physical sensation, creating an anchor you can use in moments of stress. Prepare. Sit or stand. Bring your wisdom phrase to mind. Visualize it as a light or an energy. Find the anchor point. Ask yourself, where in my body does this truth feel like it resides? Is it a feeling of solidity in my feet, a calm in my stomach, an openness in my chest? Don't search for an answer. Let the sensation arise on its own. Anchor the sensation. Once you find the sensation, place a hand over that spot on your body. Breathe deeply into it. Feel the connection. While you breathe, repeat your wisdom phrase over and over. Feel the truth of the words sinking into that spot, anchoring themselves in every one of your cells. Use your anchor. In moments of doubt, stress, or temptation to return to old patterns, you can simply place your hand over that anchor point, breathe, and recall the truth you have solidified. Chapter 10. The Shared Gold. Your pain is a gift to the world. We have reached, dear alchemist, the threshold of the last great mystery. You have journeyed to the center of your own universe and returned transformed. You carry within you the philosopher's stone, an equanimous consciousness, a deep perspective, and a freedom anchored in your own being. You have learned to live in the world without being swept away by it. You have achieved a peace that does not depend on circumstances. And now, a question inevitably arises in the silent heart of the soul that is healed. And now what? The answer to this question is the culmination of the great work, the stage that gives transcendent meaning to every tear, every fiery trial, and every moment of surrender. The journey, which was so intensely personal and so focused inward, now reveals its ultimate purpose, a sacred turn outward. The ultimate truth of the alchemist is this: gold is not meant to be hoarded. Gold is not a treasure to be stored in the vault of a perfected self. Gold is light, and the nature of light is to shine. The gold you have forged is meant to be shared. The culmination of the great work is not self-perfection, but service. The final goal of your healing is not just you. It is the fabric of humanity, of which you are an indispensable thread. The wisdom you have distilled from the bitter matter of your own suffering is now the medicine you have to offer the world. Think of the Japanese art of kintsugi. When a ceramic bowl breaks, kintsugi masters do not discard it or try to hide the cracks. They do the exact opposite. They join the broken pieces with a special lacquer mixed with gold powder. The result is a bowl that is not only functional again, but is infinitely more beautiful and valuable than before. The golden lines that run across its surface are not scars to be ashamed of. They are the testimony of its history, of its resilience. It has become more beautiful because it was broken and repaired with love and consciousness. You are that bowl. Your alchemical journey has been your inner kintsugi. You have taken the fragments of your being, broken by crises and losses, and joined them with the gold of your consciousness, your compassion, and your wisdom. Your scars now shine. And it is precisely through these golden lines that your light can now shine to illuminate the path of others. Your wounds, once healed and transmuted, become your greatest gifts. No one can understand and guide someone going through the dark night of the soul like one who has learned to navigate their own darkness. No one can offer such authentic compassion to a broken heart as one whose own heart has been shattered and healed with gold. No one can teach resilience with as much authority as one who has risen, time and again, from the smoking ashes of their own life. Your pain, which once isolated you and made you feel terribly alone, is now the bridge of empathy that connects you with all of humanity. When you meet someone who is suffering, you no longer look at them with pity from a safe shore. You look them in the eye from the other end of the same bridge, and your heart says to them without words, "I know what it's like to be where you are. I have walked through that valley, and I can tell you, with the certainty of every cell of my being, that there is a way through it. I will not abandon you." This is the fundamental difference between sympathy and compassion. Sympathy says, "Oh, you poor thing." Compassion, the compassion of the alchemist, says, "I am with you." The gold you share doesn't have to be through grand heroic gestures. You don't need to write a book or become a spiritual guide, unless that is your calling. Gold is shared in the most subtle and often most powerful ways. It is shared in the quality of your presence. When you sit with a friend in distress, you no longer feel the anxious need to fix their problem. Instead, you offer them the vast, serene space of your listening, a space you cultivated in your own inner silence. Your calm becomes an anchor for their storm. It is shared in your conscious vulnerability. When you choose to share a part of your story, you no longer do so from the drama of the open wound, but from the wisdom of the golden scar. You do not seek sympathy. You seek to offer hope. Your story becomes a map for other travelers. It is shared in your compassionate boundaries. When you say no to something that violates your peace, you do so not from anger but from a deep self-love. And in doing so, you offer a silent but powerful lesson to the other person about respect, integrity, and the value of the soul. This is the true meaning of living as an alchemist in the world. It's not about retreating to an ivory tower of spiritual bliss, but about walking among people and becoming, through your own existence, a source of healing and light. Your life, with all its imperfections, failures, and past pains, becomes your work of art and your act of service. You have closed the circle. You have transformed your pain into power, and now, that power flows through you to empower others. Practice. Becoming the medicine. These final exercises are not about you. They are about how your journey can now bless the world. They are the step from introspection to expression, from receiving to giving. Exercise 1. Identifying your unique medicine, the healer's reflection. Set aside some sacred time for this reflection. Take your journal and explore these questions as if you were a botanist discovering the properties of a rare and precious plant. You. What is the signature of my gold? Reflect on your complete journey. What has been the deepest struggle you have transmuted? Based on that struggle, what is the main flavor of the wisdom you have gained? Is it fierce resilience, radical compassion, serene acceptance, authentic courage, unconditional self-love? Try to name your primary medicine. Who is my medicine intended for? Based on your experience, what kind of pain or struggle do you resonate with most deeply? With those who feel lost? With those who are heartbroken? With those who fear they are not enough? You don't need to save anyone, but recognizing who you can best understand helps you focus your service. How does my medicine manifest? Are you a healer through words, through listening, through art, through the silent example of how you live your life, through humor? Recognize the natural ways in which your gold wants to express itself. The purpose of this exercise is not to define yourself rigidly, but to become aware of the unique gift that your soul, forged in the fire, now has to offer. Exercise 2. The act of gold, the practice of silent service. In the coming week, your mission is to perform at least one act of gold anonymously or without seeking any kind of recognition. The goal is to experience the joy of giving without the ego getting involved. It can be something as simple as paying for the coffee of the person behind you in line. It can be leaving an inspiring book on a park bench with a note that says, "For whoever needs it." It can be dedicating 5 minutes to mentally sending love and strength to someone who has hurt you in the past. After performing your act, observe the sensation within you. Notice how the act of giving, without expecting anything in return, multiplies the richness you feel. It is the economy of the soul. The more gold you share, the more gold you discover within yourself. Exercise 3. Blessing the Scars, the Inner Kintsugi Ritual. This is a final and powerful ritual of integration and gratitude. Find a moment alone in front of a mirror. Look yourself in the eyes with the same compassion with which you would look at a loved one who has suffered a great deal. Now, bring your hands to your heart, or any part of your body where you feel you have held the wounds of your past. Close your eyes. Visualize all the emotional scars you carry within, not as dark fissures, but as fine lines. Now imagine a golden, liquid light, warm and bright, that emanates from your heart. Visualize how this light begins to flow along each of those lines, filling them, sealing them with pure gold. Observe how your inner landscape transforms into a beautiful kintsugi work of art. As you maintain this visualization, say these words aloud or internally. I bless each of my scars. They are not the story of my harm. They are the map of my healing. They are not a sign of my weakness, but the unshakable testimony of my strength. Through these golden lines, my compassion flows. Through them, my light shines so that others can find their way in the darkness. I am grateful for every break, for it has allowed me to be rebuilt with gold. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Feel a deep and serene gratitude for your entire journey. Because now you understand it in its entirety. Healing yourself and healing the world were never two separate things. They are, and always have been, the same and only great work. We have reached the end of our journey together and the heart of the alchemical mystery. We started with the question, why me? And we transmuted it into the key to power. What for? Now, at the end of the journey, we discover the ultimate truth, the revelation that dissolves all questions. The purpose of the great work was never to turn lead into gold. It was a journey of elimination. It was the process of burning, dissolving and scraping away everything that wasn't gold so that you could, at last, discover what has always been there. The goal of alchemy was never to create something new, but to reveal what is eternally true. You are the gold. You always have been. Beneath the layers of wounds and fears, your indestructible core of resilience and wisdom has always existed. So the next time life presents you with lead, and it will, smile. Look at it not as an obstacle, but as a sacred reminder of the transformative power that resides within you. This knowledge, like the gold you have forged, finds its ultimate purpose when it is shared and expands the light. If this journey of discovery has resonated with you, we invite you to continue exploring the power of the mind by subscribing to our channel, Path of Knowledge. A like on this audiobook tells us that this content has brought you value, and if you believe that this message can awaken the sleeping giant in someone else, we encourage you to share it. See you next time.